So recently on Filme Shilmy, before 2025 wrapped, we did a very special collection of filmmakers who really flipped the script last year. And if there is one who really has stood out to me, not just now because of Huck and the popularity it's gotten critically and commercially, but then also on Netflix recently, it's also because, I think he's just a fabulous filmmaker. He's backed some incredible projects on OTT, and there was a film that was also that he made and was a part of a big integral part of which was called Bandaa. And it gives me great pleasure to invite Suparn Verma today on Filmy Show Me. And I'm so delighted, Suparn, to have you. Thank you so much for joining me, and a big congratulations on Huck and the absolute success it's been getting.
Thank you so much, Anuj. So lovely to be here, and thank you for being such a huge support during the theatrical release of the film, and always being on the corner of Huck. So yeah, me and my entire team, thanks you.
Well, pure haq se, I guess. So,
Huck और दिल दोनों से हाँ.
do you know what, Suparn? I think it's very interesting because I remember when the film was about to release, I was thinking, okay, maybe it would have a certificate 15 or it will kind of have an A certificate or, you know, something along those lines. But I was very surprised when I found that it was a PG and it was a film that could easily have been watched with families, despite the subject that was at hand. And not just that, but then also the whole sensitivity side of it, the whole religious angle that was there in as well in the film. I think very napatula is what I can say. And I would love to know because I think I have similar thoughts about with Banda as well, like I mentioned to you as well, is how it was very napatula. And that balance that you had as a filmmaker. I would absolutely love to know how imperative was it for you to make sure you have that right balance in storytelling?
So here's the thing. Going to Banda again. I think both the times God or faith has come to my rescue. In Banda, we had Manoj Bajpayee's character of PC Solanki, who was a Shiv Bhakt. The first time you see his character, he's offering milk on a Shivling. And the whole climax summation was literally Shiv's conversation with Parvati, where they discuss Ravan and how he disguised himself using faith to kind of kidnap Sita ji. Uh, and we were very cognizant of what we were doing because we were stirring the hornet's nest per se, or putting our hand and head into it. And we came out with a lot of respect and unscathed because our intentions are very always never about controversy, they were about conversation. And it was a very heartfelt film that we made. Coming to Huck, my mentor, my friend is Hansal Mehta. His wife's name is Safina. My friend, my brother, my collaborator, regular collaborator is Manoj Bajpayee. His wife's name is Shabana. My mentor in this industry was Feroz Khan. So I, not just within the industry, I'm very close to, members of the Muslim community. I have grown up with them. I come from a land of Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Isai, hum sab hai bhai bhai, right? So
Mm.
I have never seen lines divided on racial lines, life divided on racial lines per se. We do live in a world, though, where post 9/11 you had Islamic terrorism becoming, a whole thing. And then that has been carried on for the longest time to a very crazy space that we live in this world at this moment in time, where rights and wrongs have gone out of the window. In that kind of polarizing world, it was very important for me to tell an important story of a. It's a very highly feminist story,
Of
you
course.
know. And I realized that one, it needed to be said. It needed to be said because the story may be 40 years old, but nothing has changed for women. They still live in a man's world. They lived in a man's world then. They're still fighting the same fights they were fighting then as they are now. And more importantly, we kind of realized that the more we kept writing and developing the film, it's a story of every woman. Instead of a Shazia, she could be a Sudha, she could be a Sandra, she could be from any community, any religion. Religion had nothing to do with this film per se for me. It was faith,
Mm.
just like it was in Banda. And we made sure that, she was a five-time Namazi, even though she was not very well educated. She knew the Quran like the back of her hand. Her father was a Maulvi, and she uses the book, the knowledge, to expose her husband, who hides behind the book when it
Hmm.
suits him. And the fact is that in faith is something which is very personal. It's between you and your God, whether you believe in God or don't. Even that's a matter of faith. But it's between you and your God. There should be no third person. The minute there's a third person that comes in between two people, that person's interpretation, he starts coloring
Hmm.
whatever is written. He starts becoming, the numainda, the middleman.
Hmm.
God doesn't need middlemen. And I think we need to get off our lazy asses and pick up the books ourselves and read. That's what the film says. The last words in Haq
Ikra.
are Ikra, Pad. You know, it's all there in the book, in every book. If you read it for yourself, you would know. You would be empowered, you would be armed. Nobody would tell you what is right, what is wrong. And that's the way it should be. And that is how it began. So I think when your intentions are clean and clear, when
Hmm.
you're not trying to go in for, oh, let's make a controversial film, we'll rustle a lot of controversy and ruffle a lot of feathers, and people will come and flock the theaters. When that's your intention, you'll write a very different film. You'll polarize people, you'll anger people, you'll hurt and upset people. But why are you doing that? Just to make a few quick bucks. I am a student of cinema, I'm a lover of cinema. I'm trying to find a foothold in this very large book of filmmaking and maybe get a mention even as a word somewhere in that book. And for that, I have to be honest to my craft, honest to what I'm doing.
Hmm.
And we get to make a film only once. We'll all die. Audiences, makers, everybody, the film will remain.
Right.
Make something that is worth, lasting.
Hmm.
Good, bad, ugly. Try your best. Do your best. And be honest. Don't be dishonest to your filmmaking craft. It it very few people get a chance to do it, whether in front or behind the camera. It's a very, very tough business. And when you get a chance, die trying, but try to do your best till the very last minute, till the time is ready for it to be served to the audiences. And even then, like I have still not let go of Huck. I'm still pushing it every single day on
Hmm.
social media, giving interviews, interacting, learning, understanding, seeing what affected people, hurt, made them emotional, what worked, what didn't work, how could I have made it better. I still am talking to my editor, my writer, my background composer, my actors, Yami today. We're speaking about, oh, could we have done something better? Could we have done something different? And I'll do it till I move on to the next. And that's the way it should be. So I
Hmm.
think when you have intentions like that, I don't think you need to do be a weighing scale. You can go at it fearlessly. And I like being fearless. So
No, fearless is a very good word, actually. And I'm gonna use that to describe. And thank you so much for that very elaborative answer. That was very, very insightful. Thank you for that. Uh, it's interesting because, like you mentioned, your beginnings were with Firoz Khan Saab. You, I believe, had written a film called Janasheen.
yeah, his last film, yeah,
It was
yeah.
honestly, I mean, I love the songs of Janashi and I still listen to them. And like, I mean, Divani Hu is like still one of my favorite songs. I still listen today. And it's interesting because it's not just that, but you've also been a part of films like Zameen as well, which again is a film about counterterrorism. It's Qayamat that you've also been a part of. Karam. These are stories which are essentially about fighting back extremities. And I feel like kind of initially when I before we started this interview, I said it's been complete North Pole, South Pole in terms of the career trajectory. But actually now that you've mentioned that and now that I'm actually also seeing some of the works that you've done, it almost feels like these earlier works were gearing you up for Huck because Qayamat was also about, kind of had that sort of a theme about fighting back and, kind of standing against the actual evil forces. I mean, Zameen, Rohit Shetty's film, is literally representing that as well. So I would love to know, is this something that has stayed with you from a very, very long time in terms of writing stories that, or, telling stories that are really kind of anti um, extremism, so to speak?
I think more than anti-extremism, I like exploring the grays in characters. Like my first film, which was Chhal for Hansal Mehta, which was
Oh,
about an undercover cop.
yeah, yeah.
KK played the undercover cop and he joined the gang, right? where you explored the dynamic of the gangs and the world that he lived in and humanized everybody, and then he was trying to take them down. And his dilemma, because when you get too close to fire, sometimes you become, part of the fire, not just
Yeah.
singed. And whether it was Qayamat or Zameen or Janashin or Karam, especially for that matter, or going ahead with my career, with the films that I did, whether it was Ek Khiladi Ek Haseena or Acid Factory or Atma, which was a horror film, or the OTT shows that I kind of worked on, the early ones being Bro and Kaushiki, to Family Man season two, to Rana Naidu or Sultan of Delhi or whatever. For me, it was always been the grays that the characters inhabit and live in, because I don't believe in right and wrong being absolutes in a person's personality. I think it's more of where I enter the story from. If
Hmm.
I told you a story that Anuj takes out his car and shoots his wife in the face, and then he turns around the bend and he goes and donates money at an orphanage, I have confused you. Now, if I begin the film with Anuj getting up, donating his kidney to somebody, moving out, reaching home, and shooting his wife in the face, I have confused the shit out of you. You don't
Yeah.
know where to place Anuj now. It depends on where I entered the story from, right? I
Right.
can I can color you as an audience right from scene one. I can confuse you and make you question your own morality from scene one. So it's everybody's story, right? Everybody has a good and a bad side to them.
Yeah.
Uh, and that is again something that you will see in Imran's character,
Hmm.
where I try to normalize him as much as possible, because he is a man, a character created out of conditioning of the
Right.
society that he lived in at that point of time, that era in life, where certain things were totally the norm. They were normal. So he
Hmm.
acted normal around them.
Hmm.
You didn't have terms like gaslighting. You didn't have terms like doxing or anything. You didn't have the concept of it. Maybe the concept was there, but it was not everyday parlance, right?
Yeah.
There was no wokeism. There was no, there, even if there was feminism in that era as well, it was a very different level of feminism. And that time the feminism was about, oh, we allow women to study and we allow the women to go to work.
Hmm.
Is the norm. I mean, why does a woman need permission of a man to go to work or go to school? It's the
Right.
most basic thing. But that time feminism represented that. I mean, women had to fight suffrage to just get the right to vote till the
True.
1960s.
Correct.
It's just 60s. We're just what, 65 years away before, women empowerment or issues like that came about. I mean, you had women being put on the cross, free-minded women burnt as witches.
Yep.
There was no, what is a witch? A witch is a free-minded woman, right? With
Hmm.
her own mind and spirit, who's not controlled by a man. That is a heretic and a witch. So, are branded with the whole letter, the scarlet letter. So we have had society changing, evolving slowly with time. And when we see things in context, things change, they become different. So for me, the one thing that's remained constant is my search at times for humanity in black characters, or search for darkness in characters who are pretty righteous, because they are sus to me. Nobody can be that good and nobody can be that bad. There's always that thin line. I like walking that thin line. So yeah.
Hmm. That's very interesting actually, because I think it's very timely with what's happening around the world, especially in the Middle East currently. I think it feels very almost like the timing of it just seems so profound, and it's one of those things like you mentioned. It's probably one of those divine intervention type of things that have happened to you as well. I want to talk about, I think, the cinematic texture of both Banda and Haq actually, because what I found personally is that I think the color grading and the palette was quite similar. I felt it quite similar. I felt like there was a very strong sense of yellow at certain places. Then there were sort of pastelish colors that were there. Like the frames were always bright for some very interesting reason, because I think it's to perhaps give that sense of hope despite there being so much darkness in the actual plot. Then you also have the Browns, evidently because of the fact that they're court cases, to give that whole official feeling. So I felt like again the color grading really did interlap with both those projects. I would love to know actually, Supon, and it would be very interesting actually to get your perspective about color grading and how that's kind of evolved maybe over time, since because you've worked on
Sure.
some really
Ask,
interesting
yeah.
projects. Like,
So Ek Khiladi Ek Haseena was shot on. So I have shot. I've been lucky. I shot on film. I
yeah,
shot on 35. I've shot on Super 16. Acid Factory was shot on Super 16, by the way.
yeah.
And it was featured by Kodak magazine for how well it was shot. And then I went digital with Atma and everything else. So I've shot on Reds and Venices and Alexas and stuff like that. So I've been lucky to shoot on all mediums, 35, Super 16, and digital. And with digital grading, I mean, DI grading, of course, came on films as well. So, I mean, Ek Khiladi Ek Haseena was graded, but that time grading was very expensive. So the producers would allow you to only grade your songs because the music company would, pay especially for the song grading and maybe the action. And as filmmakers, sometimes just to get us some more footage of film being graded, we would actually build in fuck all reasons to put VFX. It could be as simple as stitching two shots or doing something which involved the most simple VFX. But when you do VFX, you have to grade the shot. So if you grade a shot, the shot before and after has to be graded. So technically, you end up grading a whole scene so it looks seamless. So in my first film, I cheated with not just getting my songs graded, but also I got my climax graded because we used a lot of PIPs. So because of PIPs is basic cheap VFX, but it needs to be graded. So my entire climax of Ek Khiladi Ek Haseena, which is almost 12 to 15 minutes in length, got graded completely. And a couple of scenes also I put in PIPs for the grading to take place. So I managed to grade about, uh, you know, 45 minutes to 50 minutes of the film. So yeah, it
Wow.
gave you a different look. You could play with the saturation levels, I mean, otherwise, film grading would literally be RGB, red, blue, green levels.
Hmm.
And the masters that our DOPs world over have been, they would create magic with that as well. Absolutely. And every film would look different because of the chemical process. Chemicals going in, connecting with film is a different magical process by itself. And I've seen that happen, right? But DI gave you a lot of flexibility. In fact, for my first film as a writer, Chhal, which we shot on film again, we shot that, and Hansal tried a method which we had just discovered. It was called the bleach bypass process, which Saving Private Ryan and Seven by Fincher both had used. So we used that. We used Fuji stock, and we kind of did a silver beach bypass of that. And Hansel asked a favor of Manmohan Shetty, who was a benefactor of Karta Datta of Indian film industry. He
Hmm.
ran Ad Labs, which was later acquired by Reliance. So, we kind of did that bypass process on it to crush the blacks and give a certain look, and the flashback sequences having a wiped out look to it and everything. So, yeah, so I've seen that. And for me, framing itself, lensing itself is a language, it's a grammar, right? Movement of camera and stuff like that. And when I started my career out initially, of course, I was trying to, because I've never assisted anybody, not gone to film school. So I was trying to prove the fact that I know the craft. So always, initially, I was very showy and stylish, and people called me a very stylish filmmaker.
Hmm.
I was a stylish filmmaker, not just inherently because I'm stylish, but also I was trying to prove a point. But over the years, I've kind of, I learned to play with the craft, but do it in the service of the story. And
Hmm.
slowly I stopped playing with the toys and employing all the tools just in service of one thing and one thing alone, the story and the emotion, nothing else.
Right.
And, I'm going still, like Family Man season 2, the whole film was handled.
Ah.
The camera was always handheld, always handheld. There's only one jib shot which I took because I had to do a massive track thing, and two, three drone shots and action pieces. We never used, steady cams or anything else at all, or tracks for that matter. Uh, so yeah, every film, every show has a language. With Huck and Banda, now courtrooms are very dreary by nature.
Hmm.
There are only certain palettes. They're lifeless. And you show them as lifeless, and then you slowly start building in life as the film changes. So Banna was set in Jodhpur. So which itself the exteriors are nice and colorful because it has a certain texture, the whole city and everything. And it lends a beautiful, way to the whole thing. That's another thing. We shot the whole film in Lucknow when it came to Haq.
Hmm.
And this time, again, I had three courts. I had the Sessions Court, I had the High Court, and the Supreme Court. So I want to shoot all of them differently. So in the Sessions Court, it was the cameras were completely handheld,
Right.
never on tracks, never anything. And also, the whole thing was treated like a vegetable market, like a fish market, where everybody's screaming, shouting at the same time. There was a lot of, pell-mell. The entire energy was very different.
Correct. Yeah.
Then we went into the Waqf board basically, which was my ode to Bhansali, where I wanted to show power as opulence. So I found a nice big place where we kind of set these people there. The light scheme was different, but there was stillness. There are not too many movements. By the time I read this high court, we use the Jimmy Jib, tracking in back and forth, or the camera going panning left and right from each character with each line. So we change the entire language there. But the Supreme Court is a place of stillness, of integrity, of honor, of a lot of respect and restraint.
Mm,
There, the cameras don't move. They stay. They still. They look down on all the characters. They look slightly low anglish on Imran. They're low anglish on Yami, or they never go above the eye.
right.
And with the judge, again, it's low angle or eye level. There's only one jib shot, which is for tracking back, or a top shot that comes back in when the Supreme Court judgment is being given. So I created different styles. The lighting was different. Also, the interiors of all three places are very, very different. You know, the Sessions Court was bright, but Fish Market, the High Court was, uh, much more dreary because by now the characters have been fighting for 4 5 years. So the life of them will be sucked out. And finally, the opulence of the Supreme Court. So the color scheme changed there. Also, her father's house had a different color scheme and a different grade because it was in Sankni. Her husband's house had a different color scheme and a different grade. So that way, the minute you cut from here to there, you would know that you're in the father's house, different area, or the husband's house, different area. So using color and emotion. And also the other thing that we kind of deliberately did in the lighting of Haq was it starts off with all windows lit in a very Maniratnam kind of fashion, where there are like five
Mm,
suns because light is coming from everywhere. You don't know where the damn sun is, right? But as the second wife comes in, we started centering the sun to one light source and
right.
keeping Bano's character in the shadows. And she keeps going further and further and further and further in the shadows till the moment the reckoning of the Supreme Court happens, where she finally opens the curtain and opens her eyes and lets the sun, you know, fall on
Mm,
her face. And then she moves into the light, and then the light never leaves her ever. So that whole palette was designed in that sense that we could create that visual poetry and language. The lensing was very different. I wanted to use split diopter lenses, but I held myself back till I reached the Supreme Court, where you had Imran and Yami both in focus either ways. So we used the split diopter lens out there for the effect that they are both seeing each other,
mm.
almost
Oh,
like gladiators with visors on. So
it was beautiful, and honestly, it's so interesting. You sort of, you know, hat tipped the filmmakers that you mentioned, Bansali, Maniratnam, and so many more. And I think definitely, I think hearing your conversation and your sort of thoughts behind it, I can kind of see that really sort of transpiring. What also I found quite interesting last year, and I'm going to come to Yami in a bit because I think Yami is a very big segment of this film, and I will come to her in a bit. But I found it very interesting because I was just sitting back and as I was watching Huck, what went through my mind is how we saw this very kind of secure relationship between fathers and daughters really emerge in Hindi cinema last year. For example, you had Sayara, where there was a very strong mother and a father and daughter story. You had Tere Ishq Mein, which was again a very strong father and daughter sort of story. Obviously, that's also, I mean, how the father behaves with others is a different conversation, but there is that sense of protection and the father being the strength of the daughter and vice versa. And then of course you had Huck, and I thought that the bond that has really sort of transpired in throughout this that year has been phenomenal. um Hypothetical question really, but what do you think it is, Suppan, that's really made eyes really turn towards this father-daughter dynamic in particular? Because I feel like it's really rare to kind of see a very secure, protected kind of Metere Sadhu types, of a dynamic in Hindi cinema nowadays. I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe it's not as uncommon, but what do you think it is that's really kind of transpired in this sort of dynamics?
see, I don't know what Hindi cinema dynamic per se. For me, in this, it was important that a Maulvi's daughter.
Hmm.
So there's a logical connection to why she's so well read with the Quran, firstly. And she also ended up teaching, just like him. I needed Molly Bashi's character to be silent,
Hmm.
not the kind who even says कि मैं तुम्हारे साथ हूँ. rather than saying you're right. Sometimes, and I think that's what good parenting is, which
Mm.
by being a father myself, I've discovered it is you don't need to support by giving a shitload of advice. Let them make the mistakes. A child knowing this, the father is there or a parent is there, just there, is a very big thing. I lost my father when I was 4.5. So
Mm.
I've always looked for father figures and I kept finding them in my life till I realized maybe I don't need them by maybe becoming one. And I'm discovering what fatherhood is by being a father, right? So, what is being a father to me? Or what I have discovered is that my child needs me just to be there, just the reassurance that he's there. If I fall, he's there. If I stumble, he's there. He doesn't need to say it. But when I look over my shoulder, he's there. And that's exactly that shot that I do from the back where they're both staring in the masjid in the distance.
Mm.
And my camera comes around and it's Yami who turns to him and she sees he's there. And he just says, and he's already finished his lines by then, that हम जहाँ जा रहे हैं वहां से मुड़ना मुश्किल है.
Oh yeah.
But जो भी तुम करोगी मैं तुम्हारे साथ हूँ.
From the
I'm
rooftop.
with you. And that note I needed to add. I mean, while shooting it, I realized I need a note. He couldn't have just gone so suddenly. He would have left something behind for her, something. And then I realized I know what he'll leave behind. So I had a noted in Urdu for her,
Mm.
and kept in the book. So that when she opens it, it says Banu tum sahi ho.
Oh wow. It's amazing. And do you know what's really stood out to me, and since you have already mentioned the sort of filmmakers you've paid hat tips to, when I saw
There's
Yami,
also Kieslowski. There's
yeah,
Kieslowski's hand shot from Three Colors Blue.
right. And
Yami for a long time was not convinced about the shots. Like, what does the shot mean? I said, just wait for it. I did the shot and showed it to her. She said, it looks very good on you, but why am I doing it? I said, just do it. Then finally she did the shot. She did the shot 6 times. It was technical because there's a lot of VFX and shit like that. I need to remove the bandage later on, right?
mm,
And she did the shot finally. The sun was going down. And then she sees it in the edit in the lineup and she says, oh my God, the shot really hits me. So, yeah, it hit you. So yeah, it's one of those things.
no, definitely. But I'll tell you what else. Yami's character, very, I don't know, of course, it's inspired by the real life story. Of course it is. And we need to also delve into that aspect as well very shortly. But it also the way you represented her, she kind of reminded me of Rani Mukherjee in Veer Zara, very interestingly. I don't know if
Is
this
it?
was,
Oh,
yeah, I
no,
don't know if this was ever intended to, but
no.
was certain moments where it just reminded me so much of that character, and I just love and I love Rani in Vizara. She was
She's
literally
amazing. She's
Samya
amazing.
Siddiqui
She's
is literally one of my favorite lawyer characters ever in Hindi cinema, period. Okay. And the way she sort of played it, there was that sense of because when I watch Rani's performance, there's a sense of her eyes. You can उनकी आंखों में हमेशा एक आंसू रहते हैं because of humanity purposes. She can see that someone has been badly wronged, and I can also feel that a lot in Yami's eyes. I don't know if this was ever intended or was it just maybe my just interpretation of Rani and Vizara, but it would be nice to kind of hear your perspective on that or what you had in mind, perhaps.
I no, I not for a second. Actually, I didn't reference anybody uh for Shazia's character while writing because I already had a kind of okay from Yami on the subject material itself. She heard the story and she said yes. So always it was Yami always in my head, right? And I try and not do references for the, so I call it sur of
Mm.
actors or a
Rhythm.
pitch of an actor. I like they finding the rhythm or they creating the rhythm and creating it with them. I think when sometimes actors are told, "Oh, you didn't act well in this film," I think then they have been miscast because all actors are instruments. As a director, my job as a conductor is to put the right instrument for the right music and right sound. If
Very
I
true.
put the wrong instrument, it's not the instrument's fault. It's my fault for putting the wrong instrument. Uh, if you're ever so lucky, where you get a bloody full-on orchestra in one instrument itself, whether Yami or Imran, then you can play the National Philharmonic Symphony and go to town with it, which I kind of managed to do out here because I had two artists at the peak of their abilities.
Hmm.
One of my I think Smita Patil is one of the greatest actresses ever. One of
I
her films, Bhumika, is one of the greatest films ever made by Shyam Babu. I see that film every year once. I think that film is beyond good. It's God level. It's
What
God
agree.
level. Like it's Shyam Babu in God mode. Period. God mode. I mean, that man has made great cinema, but Bhumika for me is next level. Smita Patil is wiping the floor and eating the bakery and killing it and crumbs. I mean, all that. Put all phrases together. That's Smita Patil, right? Of late, people have been comparing Yami to Smitaji's performance in general, saying that you are the Smita Patil. And I was like, I don't think there can be a bigger compliment than that. Like, like the way you have a Dada Saheb Phalke award,
Hmm.
just as a word to say, call someone Smita Patil, that's such a great achievement.
Hmm.
And she has done such a brilliant job. So no, I didn't reference any performance. Neither did Yami. I mean, she deep dived. She became Yami. She became Shazia. She was in Daniel Day Lewis mode in this film. People talk about method acting. That woman was mother to a child who was just 6 months old, and
Hmm.
she did not fly. And she only flew back to him over those 3 weekends that I shot the film. I shot the film in 32 days, and
Right.
she would fly to him. Initially, the plan was that her son would come to her, stay with her. She would see him every night after shoot, but she didn't do that. She
Hmm.
stayed in character. It's a huge sacrifice for a young mother. And
Yeah.
she did on her own. Nobody asked. She did this on her own because she believed in the film, in the role, and she didn't want to distract herself. And my God, what has she created? She created a character that will, I think, live on for a very, very long time. Like when I was making the poster for the film, my basic brief was look at the poster of Mother India,
Hmm.
evoke an emotion from me. Look at those eyes. I don't need to put in a lot of shit. I just need my characters, two faces, then there, either facing each other or her eyes. Just show me the eyes of Shazia Bano
Hmm.
because they talk.
Maybe this is a question best asked to Yami whenever I get to speak with her next. But I would, I mean, maybe I don't know if she shared it with you though. When she is playing a character who she's betrayed, right? She's betrayed, and there's so many different layers that she has gone through of the character. And I would love to know, for Yami's perspective, what was the factors in her real life that kind of really was used as a springboard in order to kind of find some resonance with this character? Because obviously, if one's playing a murderer, you can't actually go and murder someone, but you can actually find emotions or actions or mindsets that are kind of close to what that screen character is, right? Is there any idea? Do you have any? I mean, has she shared that with you of what was the real kind of basis for her to really emote the way she has so powerfully in the film?
I think as we did our readings, she started slowing down the character. She started finding keywords for the character which were in English, which she would mispronounce. It started with that. And emotionally, she just stuck to the beat of a woman in love who never stopped being in love for a very long time, always hoped till it came to her self respect. And even the self respect, one of the scenes I added in the script when the drafts came out, I needed a moment between husband and wife before the Supreme Court. Because for me, that moment is like the Mahabharat, which is called the Dharam Yudh, where
Mm,
families, after the end of every day, would go into each other's tents and uncles would see nephews injured or so and so forth, right? Because you had relatives on both sides
mm,
fighting each other.
yeah.
And for me, these were two people, husband and wife, with children between them, and also fighting from the same house. So I needed that conversation. I need certain things said. I need it to be spoken. I need to be civil. It's easy to shout and scream and say कि तुमने ये किया, you said this and I did this and I did that. And you can get that high note there as well. I realize I need to pull back and hold back. I think the what if hit you more because it was so held back. then, So in life, I have grown up watching Gulzar Saab's films. I don't think anybody does relationship dramas better than Gulzar Saab. I have been doffing my hat all through Haq to Gulzar Saab in the relationship between, Shazia and Abbas. Every scene, I would just ask myself, and that's what I would tell Reshu, how would Gulzar Saab write this scene? How would he shoot this scene? And more than shoot, how would the actors perform in this scene? Would their sur be up or down? What would the sur be? What would the sur be of the scene? And when we shot the film, till the time we shot the film, there were no songs in the film. The songs were only in my head playing. So I shot montages. Every now and then I would keep shooting montages. And then I showed a massively 3 hour, 40-minute cut to Vishal Mishra. And he heard the songs in my heart and head, and then the same songs kept up on him. And we weaved the entire marriage till the woman coming in as one piece. And I needed an anthem for my climax, not BGM, which weaves around everything. And Sandeep took that and used that as a motive to create the sound per se. So Kabul Hai's theme song continues in the film till the car shot, where after the marketplace, she tells her everything and they come back. The alap of Kabul Hai kind of is created in BGM. And after that, you never hear Kabul Hai because, in a way, now it's no longer Kabul Hai.
Hmm.
And Haq Hai Mera starts as a theme song teased when the coffee cups are exchanged and teas are given by the maid servant at night, and then in domestic help at night, and then in the morning they go to the Supreme Court, and then the notes are hit and stuff like that. So yeah.
And again, certain things as well that I found really, I guess not intentional, perhaps to say, but there are certain aspects, like for example, when what really stood out to me was when they were fighting initially, like the veil that she has on her head that slowly starts dropping. It's little nuances like that, which I think I wrote in my review as well, actually. And it's just there's just so many little nuances that you've had in there, which really has a big impact. Um, and speaking of impact, the Shah Bano case was an absolute milestone, and honestly, I cannot even imagine how difficult it must have been for her to really fight for her right, quite literally, and from a humanitarian perspective, honestly, she's honestly such an inspiration to so many women out there who might be in similar positions to her. Like you said, it's a universal subject. And I think when you're making a film that's inspired by true events, I think it's a tough one. It's a real tough
Yeah.
one because you have a certain vision that you have as a filmmaker, but then at the same time, you want to make sure that you're not doing a disservice to the actual story by missing out key stuff or, perhaps misinterpreting uh, what's actually happened as well. So I asked you earlier in this interview about balance. I would love to bring that whole sense of balance again in terms of you having your cinematic, artistic sort of image and process of that, but then at the same time, wanting to make sure that you really honor the true story in its full glory.
So here's the thing. One, I was inspired by the story. We used all the case files and everything, and we sat and wrote our arguments ourselves. Uh, I think it comes down to something very simple. I mean, for once, I'll give you a short answer. It comes down to intent and intention. If your intent and intention is honest, nobody will raise a finger at you because people can sniff it a mile away in a frame, not even as a tagline. The intent was clear right from the day we put the teaser out, which is कि मैं सिर्फ मुसलमान औरत नहीं, मैं एक हिंदुस्तान की मुसलमान औरत हूँ, right?
Hmm.
And that was a big burning statement that I needed to make.
Yeah.
I've had friends whose brothers were Ashoka Award, Paravir Chakra Award awardees during Kargil War, and they could not buy a house because they're Muslims.
Hmm.
And Southern societies don't sell flats to Muslims. So there is that massive bias, and I needed to address it. I needed to clear it. I needed a lot of misnomer about certain things, uh, you know, talked about, voiced about,
Hmm.
for Muslims and non-Muslims both, and show that we are one as a country. We are one as a nation. We are one as a people.
Absolutely.
And I think it's important.
No, very empowering in that sense as well. But that's the thing again, balance is again going to bring it back to that again because this could have
I'm Libra, by the way. I'm a Libran, so balance.
nice. Okay, how ironic. So basically, you know, this could have easily become a film that could have been caught up in a political ping pong. This could have it could have gone south easily. Like it could have completely, become a politicized thing or a heavily campaigned thing, but it didn't. Huck just came. There was a bit of a halla gulla about it. There was a bit of like people saying
I
if
think initially people had their own thoughts and opinions. The minute they saw the film, they
yeah.
shut up.
Yes, that's literally what I was gonna say. It literally
Yeah. Now the funny part is the noises about, oh, they changed the facts. She's no longer 72, 62. And I'm like, you know what? Are you stupid? I mean, 60-year-old heroes have trouble getting audience into theaters. If I cast a 62-year-old as an actress, how many people will go to what theaters to watch it? Would you? Would you pay for it if I went authentically there? It doesn't change anything in my story. And that's the reason I said it again and again. I'm inspired by the Shabano case.
Hmm,
I'm not doing a docudrama. I'm not making a documentary. I'm not even bought life rights to make it as is. I am doing my inspired version of a story based or inspired by
hmm,
a certain case. And that is it. And these are my characters,
right.
living, breathing, created by me and Reshu. So why talk about, oh, she's not 62? You changed that. Yeah, I did. I'm a filmmaker. I have the right to do that.
Hmm.
If I say I'm making a docudrama and I change around and play with facts,
Don't
fine,
expect.
hold me to ransom. But when I'm saying I'm inspired by a real life incident and characters, by a landmark judgment, that allows me the leeway to create my world and space
Correct.
and go for the heart. I have gone for the heart. So see the heart of the film, where it's at.
Absolutely. And it's quite ironic again because you also had Mrs. come out this in 2025 and Sanya and Yami really owned it last year, the space as actors, and I'm so
Yeah,
happy.
Sanya was amazing. I love the film. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so empowering to see that really, really come about because it's in a way questioning from two different communities, but part of the same kind of like veil, if I may say so, and I think that was really interesting. But I would also love to know, has Shahbano's family like seen the film? I mean, I don't know if this is already
No,
documented.
I have no idea.
You have
No,
no idea.
I heard before the film's release they had filed cases and stuff, and
Right.
then the High Court kind of squashed that. But after that, nothing. I've never heard anything from them or from the families. I really hope they do watch it.
Yeah.
I think they'll be moved and they'll see how respectful we have been of everything and everyone.
Mm.
It's not like I vilified or villainized, Saira's character either. For me, it was a matter of sisterhood. So both the wives have their moment together, where the other one also sees Bano's perspective.
Yeah. And it's not just obviously Yami was really amazing in the film, but also I really want to give a special mention. I mean, Imran is outstanding as well.
He
Loved
had a very tough role, very tough role.
him.
Honestly, he's not author-backed.
Yeah. If you could explain that a little bit, please, that would be really good, actually. Like, what?
So here's the thing, Imran's Abbas's character is a very gray area where everyone who's seen the film, every single person who's seen the film has come out saying, I may not like Abbas's character, but I understand Abbas's character.
Hmm. Yeah.
And a huge part of that goes to Imran's performance of how he made himself understood. You may agree or not agree with him, like or not like him. He was not going for that. He asked me, "What is your intention with Abbas?" I said, "I need Abbas to be understood." The victory of the film will lie in the fact that you understand Abbas. You don't have to like him, agree with him. You don't. It's not written that way. But you need to understand him. It's very easy to demonize,
Yes, true.
and I'm not going for that. And he didn't go for that, and he created that, which is just beautiful.
And I think that's the beauty of his character. It's like he's very charming. Like you actually do fall for him initially, and you feel like he's actually quite ideal. And Then when you see his misogynistic and patriarchal traits, that's when you're like, oh my God, like this guy is like,
And
oh,
that's so
he felt that
hardcore
frustration.
ingrained in him, so much so that
Yeah.
his own mother kind of, supports him because
Yeah.
it comes from there, right? That a man does this. And I mean, here's the thing, that shit part, right? That even today, as we speak today, a guy goes out and has sex with a girl or loses his virginity, the father will pat his back and say, Mera munda ladka ban gaya, mard ban gaya. A
Hmm.
girl has sex outside, she'll be thrashed, saying,
True.
Tune hamari naak kata di.
Yeah.
I don't understand why is a family's respect connected to a woman's virginity or her sexual life, while it's exact reverse when it comes
Absolutely.
to a boy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's misogyny at a very deep level. I mean, that's what gets ingrained across societies, right?
A big shout out to Shiba Chadda and to Vartika Singh as well. I absolutely that whole Laddu wala like that segment na between Imran and Shiba, that was, I think that was very like that, I felt was like a very Netflix moment. You know, I can't quite explain it or put my finger, but I think you know what I mean to say with that whole sequence. Like it was very Netflix and it just felt like, okay, this is definitely Supern's like kind of OTT aspects of doing stuff like Rana Naidu and obviously doing like a family man, was it really kind of coming into play there? No, but that was a really great scene. But also, what I wanted to mention about those two actresses in particular, it's interesting that a lot of the female talents you have worked with have been beauty pageant winners, right? In whichever capacity you've worked with, whether you've worked with the Pasha, Priyanka and Karam, uh, so many of the other movies that you have done, right? They've all had this sense of grace and, uh,
Dia
that
Mirza, yeah.
an
Mm.
agency, Selena Jetli as well, and Janasheen.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of them, I feel like you've always had that Abaru intact. I think an agency in all your female sort of characters in a way. And I think even Vartika, because even though she's seen as the Sultan, that she is the Sultan in the film, but yet there is that sense of redemption arc. And you know how typically in Indian movies would kind of characterize like where the sari clad or the traditional dressing looking kind of woman would be the Abla Nari, and then the one who's modern would be painted as someone who's a villain. But here it was almost like there was none of those comparisons at all. And I think the way you've also kind of, in a way, kind of symbolized that as well, where there's no differentiation between that and that. I thought that was very interesting as well. And
Yeah,
yeah.
that is my worldview, Anuj. I mean, that's how I see life as. I mean, the funniest trope in horror movies is that the girl who's having sex in the first scene is going to be the first to die, while the virgin will live on. And I
True.
always found that ridiculous, right? But again, sex has been vilified so much, sexuality has been vilified so much, sexual orientation has been vilified so much, and we have lost so much of talent as so many good people to that, right from Oscar Wilde to, you just, I mean, I'm just an example. Like, it just list just goes on. People who have had to hide who they really are, who can't express themselves, who can't speak about it, who talk in veils. Uh, I think I'm just glad that at least part of the world, the veil has been lifted where people can be who they are, express themselves, express their sexuality and their orientation, and just be. End
Mm,
of the day, everybody is, I mean, more than that, I think this is my perspective of how I view the world. One of my favorite videos that I see is, you start off with a close up of Anuj
mm,
and you pull back in his room, and then you pull back and you pull back and you pull back and you pull back, and then you're seeing a top shot from the skies of this small little community, and you keep pulling back and pulling back and pulling back, and now you see the earth. Now you
mm,
keep pulling back and pulling back and pulling back and pulling back, and you see the nine planets and the sun. And you keep pulling back and pulling back and pulling back, and the damn galaxy has now become a dot. And there are millions of galaxies, and you keep pulling back, and all you see are fucking grains of sand on the screen.
mm,
Each galaxy is a grain of sand when seen in that galaxy in one bloody small little planet. Are us as grains. We take ourselves so seriously. Why can't we be kind to each other, man? Why can't we coexist? Why can't we be at peace? All
mm,
it takes is one single word: acceptance.
mm.
Open your bloody heart out. That's all it takes. your heart and mind in sync, and stop living with biases. This whole concept of us and them, the amount of differentiation we have created, right from genders, which is male, female, to whatever, it sucks, right? I think, and we're all gonna die. It's not only like we're immortal.
Yeah.
In that limited time, there is so much of nonsense that you want to create. Create something good and beautiful out there. It'll last time. And that's the reason, I think we're all artists because art will outlast all of us. Art will remain, beauty will remain.
It's interesting you said that, and I completely agree with what you're saying. That whole us and them, though, in art has definitely trickled down, though. I feel like, and I can understand why people might have a problem with certain movies and the representation of certain films. I totally get it. But it almost feels like people are not engaging in conversations anymore. Like when we talk about art, when it really shocks you and takes you out of your comfort zone, I feel like you kind of did that with Rana Naidu because we were not expecting to see Rana Daggubati in the way he was. And I think for the, because I think even in Telugu, like films, from what I have seen at least, it never really crosses that limit. I mean, obviously there is subtle things which one may have social conversations about that, but you never actually see proper nudity and you don't see sex in its full glory in that sense. And you
Yeah.
kind of did that with that show. And I think recently Yash kind of had the toxic teaser, and I think it's just created such a sort of conversation. But I think it's fascinating, isn't it? It's a very fascinating time where you're seeing different voices of cinema. You might not agree with it, but you can't. Can you really necessarily cancel art? Is art ever cancelable? And to what extent is it cancelable? And why are people not actually having discussions no anymore? What is the reason?
I I think I don't know why people are not having discussions, but I think the problem it's created is this, that today when you curb the other side so much and silence them saying your opinion doesn't count, you will give rise to the incels. And when they talk and shout and scream, it's toxic.
Hmm.
I think both, and rather all sides need to talk and have the space to talk without being judged. If you're a true liberal, then that is what it's all about. Everybody gets a space to talk. If you don't believe in censorship, you shouldn't be censoring yourself either. You cannot say that, oh, animal cannot be made or a Kabir Singh cannot be made. Why? Why? That's a point of view. That's someone's point of view. And people are going and watching it. There is art and there is craft in it. Go watch the film.
Hmm.
People don't, society doesn't change because of cinema. Cinema gets created out of society. No film on this planet has affected society so far. All this blame game, oh my God, if you make this film, this will happen. No, that's bullshit. Yes, as a filmmaker, do you need to be responsible? Yes. And end of the day, in all films, good wins, evil, loses per se. That is the lesson you walk out of. But we are not here as moral gatekeepers of society. You have enough people doing the job. We are here to create art. Sometimes beautiful, sometimes ugly, sometimes controversial, sometimes conversational. Sometimes it will jolt you, sometimes it will stir you, sometimes it will make you cry, sometimes it will laugh. But that's the very nature of art.
True.
It needs to move something within you. Good, bad, ugly is secondary.
Hmm.
It can't leave you impassive.
Right.
Art makes you feel a certain way, and that is it. Artists are not meant to be responsible for the good and evils of society because artists don't cause it.
Hmm.
The more you curb something, the more it'll be pent up and burst one day, and sometimes in wrong ways. The more you allow people to flow and talk and engage, you'll have conversations, and eventually things will percolate both ways.
Yeah.
And I think that has become missing of late. The nuances have kind of gone out of the window. They need to come back.
Yeah. Will they come back? That's the question. And how will it come back?
Of
That's
course, everything comes back. Life is a circle. Everything comes back. Everything comes back. Today you are high, tomorrow you'll be low, and then again you'll be high, again you'll be low. So it's a circle, like a circle of life.
hmm. Interesting. But I think, look, on a final note, though, Supone, I think, look, Huck has been doing so well. I think even, especially ever since it's come on Netflix as well, I think the reactions have amplified. I mean, did well anyway when it was theatrically releasing, but now that obviously it's had its Netflix release and people are loving the film, appreciating it, even in the industry as well, what do you now see as a I don't want to say milestone because that really kind of trivializes the whole process, really. But what do you think will be a story that you're burning to tell next? What is something that you really are keen to explore next, and how can we perhaps see that in the future?
See, I have a lot of ideas, a lot of scripts, a lot of stories I'm hearing, I've created, I've written. Uh, I'm in the enviable position of trying to choose what I want to do next. I am excited by a lot of things. As you can see from my body of work, I'm genre agnostic.
Mm,
Uh, and life is offering some great opportunities to me. So I think my decisions, which eventually come down to my decisions as a director as well, saying the right yes and saying the right no.
mm.
So I'm right now kind of trying to say a lot of correct no's in hope to say the right yes. And I'm being wooed in the best way possible, and I'm enjoying the process.
Good. Well, no, I think Huck is a very special film. It's a very milestone film. It's a landmark film, just like The Judgment as well. So I'm very happy that you've made the film. I'm super proud of the team, and I can't wait to see what other great films you have in the pipeline, or even series, whatever it is that you choose to tell us and explore. So looking forward to that.
Thank you so much, Anuj.
Thank you.
Looking forward. Lovely talking to you. See
Thank
you,
you.
my friend.